What is up, you guys? It is your boy back in the studio, and we need to have a serious, real talk conversation about something that is vibrating through the global financial architecture right now. Imagine for a second you are standing in front of a high-tech reinforced glass storage warehouse. It is the most secure vault on the planet, and there is a digital log on the front door that records every single bar of gold that moves in or out. You check the logs every morning, and the numbers are consistently zero. Nothing is moving. But here is the absolute nightmare. Every single time you revisit that warehouse, the shelves are looking significantly emptier, the gold bars are vanishing. The space is starting to look like a hollowed-out ghost town, even though the official digital ledger claims that absolutely nothing has left the building. Oh shit, someone is pulling a heist of historic proportions, and they are doing it with the calculated intent of making sure nobody notices until it is way too late. Well, that is not a thriller movie plot. That is the cold, hard reality of what Goldman Sachs just uncovered in the global gold market. A massive, hidden, multi-billion-dollar vacuum that is sucking up physical gold from London vaults while the official data tells the rest of the world that everything is perfectly fine. This is a signal. It is a flashing red light for the entire global monetary system, and it suggests that central banks are scrambling to get their hands on physical gold in total secrecy because they know something about the future of the US dollar that the average citizen is not being told. The Goldman report revealed that central banks are buying roughly 70% more gold than the official numbers actually show, and they are doing it by using complex shadowy loopholes where a custodian purchases the gold, classifies it as a monetary reserve asset, and then exports it without ever triggering the standard reporting requirements that you and I see on the nightly news. This is not a glitch. This is a calculated, strategic, and desperate move to prepare for what comes after the dollar. You have to understand that countries do not accumulate this much physical gold in secret just for fun. They do it because they are terrified of the exact same trap that Russia fell into when the United States weaponized the dollar and froze their foreign assets with the push of a single button. That event sent a massive shockwave through every single capital city on planet Earth, and now every sovereign nation is looking at their dollar-denominated debt and their foreign reserves and thinking if they can do it to them, they can absolutely do it to me. So they are pivoting hard, and they are doing it in the dark. They are building a parallel financial system, like the Shanghai Gold Exchange, specifically designed to bypass the Western, controlled institutions that have dominated the last century. This is not just about gold prices, it is about raw power, it is about national sovereignty, and it is about hedging against the inevitable day when the world stops trusting the dollar as the ultimate store of value. Look, if you think this is just some conspiracy, you are not paying attention to the macro data. The BRICS nations are not giving up. They are just getting smarter. They are moving the goalposts. They are quietly creating a gold corridor that runs across Asia and into the Middle East, allowing countries to settle trade in physical gold instead of US treasuries. And while the mainstream media keeps you distracted with short-term noise, the smart money is positioning itself for a long-term currency reset because at the end of the day, central banks do not care if the price of gold fluctuates by a few dollars tomorrow. They know where the trajectory of the fiat system is headed, and they are getting into position to survive the transition. So where does that leave you? If the institutions that literally print the money are ditching it in favor of physical gold, what does that tell you about what you should be doing with your own retirement fund? You need to build your own personal shield. You need to own assets that have no counterparty risk, assets that cannot be turned off, blocked, or seized because some politician in Washington decided you were on the wrong side of a geopolitical argument. This is exactly why I personally prioritize physical gold and silver in my own portfolio. Not because I am some gold bug trying to sell you a product, but because I have studied the history of every single empire and every single currency reset. And they all end the exact same way. The currency loses value, the debt spirals out of control, and the people who hold hard, tangible assets are the ones who come out on the other side with their wealth intact. You have to treat your wealth like a fortress. And a fortress without a gold foundation is just a house of cards waiting for the next economic wind to blow it down. Think about the sheer scale of the manipulation. We are witnessing a global transition where the dominance of the greenback is being quietly challenged by a silent accumulation of the oldest monetary asset in history. The central banks are essentially telling us that the future of currency is not digital, it is not speculative, it is physical, it is elemental, and it is finite. While you are out there worrying about the daily volatility of your favorite tech stock or the interest rate projections for the next quarter, these sovereign entities are playing a multi-decade game of chess. They are moving their king into a position of safety, leaving the rest of the board exposed to the inflationary fallout of decades of reckless money printing. Oh man, it is wild because when you look at the data, the discrepancy between reported purchases and actual physical movement is massive. It represents billions of dollars of value shifting from the Western vaults to the Eastern reserves. And this is happening right under our noses. If the media were actually doing their job, this would be the headline on every single financial publication. But it is not. It is buried in the deep technical reports. Because exposing this truth would cause a massive crisis of confidence in the very currency that runs the global economy. It would mean admitting that the emperor has no clothes, that the debt-based system has run its course, and that the only true anchor left in the storm is the metal that has been prized for 5,000 years. So, what happens when the dam finally breaks? What happens when the official data can no longer hide the reality of the shift? The market is going to have to reprice everything. It will be a violent correction, a revaluation that will hit the people holding paper the hardest. The investors who have been betting on a permanent continuation of the status quo are going to be caught flat-footed, but you have the opportunity right now to get ahead of this. You have the opportunity to take your hard-earned capital and move it into a position of relative security. Think about the math. If gold were to be revalued to reflect its true scarcity against the ballooning supply of global debt, we would be looking at numbers that make today's prices look like absolute pennies. It is not just a hedge, it is a survival strategy for the inevitable end of the fiat experiment. I am not saying you need to liquidate everything today, but you absolutely need to start diversifying. You need to have a portion of your wealth that exists outside the banking system, outside the reach of digital surveillance, and outside the control of central bank policy. This is the lesson of history. It is the lesson of every collapse from Rome to the modern era. Those who hold the tangible, the physical, and the finite are the ones who rebuild when the dust settles. And those who chase the paper and the promises are the ones who find themselves starting from zero. The reality of this gold shift is a wake-up call. It is a signal that the world is moving away from the illusion of endless growth through debt and moving toward a reality where value must be backed by something real. So stay alert, stay informed, and most importantly, stay prepared, because the transition is already happening and it waits for no one. I see the comments. I see people saying you are just trying to sell us something, and yeah, we are a full-service gold and silver dealer. I am incredibly proud of that because we are on the front lines of helping people protect their families from this exact disaster. We do not just sell bars, we educate, we analyze, and we help you prepare for the inevitable shift in the global financial cycle. You can scan the code below or call the number to talk to a real human being on our team. Not a robot, not a script, just a professional analyst who can help you map out your personal protection strategy. And right now, we are actually running a massive silver promotion to help people stack more hard assets. While the market is still distracted, it is all about education, it is about having a plan, and it is about not waiting until the last second when the news finally tells you that the dollar has been devalued. That is the day you want to be ready, not scrambling. And if you have questions, call us, reach out. Let us help you build that defensive wall. Because the system is shifting beneath our feet, and the people who stay in the dark are going to be the ones who pay the highest price. I am just a regular guy sharing my financial journey on a screen, and nobody can perfectly predict exactly when the final domino will fall. But I am not going to be sitting there holding nothing but depreciating paper when it happens. I am staying diversified, I am keeping my cash cushion ready to deploy, and I am stacking hard assets. Imagine if you had a secret inventory in your own home, away from the prying eyes of the banking giants, a small pile of physical security that represents your labor and your time and your commitment to your future. This is not just buying metal. This is buying peace of mind in an era where the digital numbers in your bank app could shift or be frozen or be devalued overnight by policies that you have zero say in. We are talking about a total transition of the global monetary order. And while the powers that be in the East are loading up their vaults, you are standing on the sidelines with nothing but confidence in a system that is clearly showing cracks. You need to start thinking differently. You need to start acting differently. Because the game has changed. The rules of 1971, when Nixon closed the gold window and unleashed the era of pure fiat currency, are being rewritten in real time. We are seeing the rise of a new multipolar reality where the dollar is just one piece of the puzzle, not the entire puzzle, and gold is the glue that is holding the other side together. You can be a witness to history, or you can be a part of it. You can be the one who looked at the signs and made the right move for your family, the smart money, the central banks. The sovereign wealth funds, they are all voting. They are voting for gold, and they are doing it every single day. So what is your vote? Are you going to keep betting on a currency that is losing its dominance, or are you going to hedge your position with the one asset that has never gone to zero in 5,000 years? The logic is sound, the history is clear, and the current events are proving the thesis correct. It is time to move beyond the talking heads on the news. It is time to move beyond the speculative bubbles that make us feel good in the short term, and it is time to build a foundation that is as strong as the metal itself. Remember that the goal is not to get rich quick, the goal is to stay rich, to preserve the purchasing power that you have worked so hard to build, and to ensure that you are never left behind when the music stops. I have seen so many people panic when the markets dive, when the inflation prints come in hot, when the geopolitical headlines scream crisis, but those who are prepared, those who have the hard hard assets, those who have the discipline to hold, they sleep soundly, they know that they are shielded, they know that they are protected, and they know that they have a plan for any outcome. That is the level of confidence I want you to have. That is the level of preparedness I want you to strive for. And if you ever need help, if you ever need clarity, if you ever need a guide on this journey, I am here. My team is here, and we are dedicated to your success. We are not going anywhere. We are standing firm, and we are ready to help you navigate this transition. So keep watching, keep learning, keep growing, and keep stacking. Because the future belongs to those who prepare for it today. And I am right here with you, walking this path, uncovering the truth, and preparing for the next big shift. Let us look at the individual steps you can take today to harden your financial setup against these systemic shocks. The first action is to conduct a complete audit of your current assets. How much of your net worth is sitting in fiat, dependent instruments like bonds or long-term savings accounts that are directly vulnerable to inflation and monetary devaluation? If that number is too high, you have work to do. You need to rebalance, shift capital from depreciating paper into stores of value that have historical scarcity. Gold and silver are not just commodities. They are money in its purest form, and they have been used to settle debts for thousands of years because they possess an intrinsic value that no central bank can manufacture out of thin air. That is the key difference. The printing press can create as many dollars as it wants, but it cannot print a single ounce of gold. So when you buy physical metal, you are opting out of the dilution trap. You are taking your seat at the table with the central banks who are already doing the exact same thing. It is an equalizing move. It is an insurance policy against the hubris of policymakers who think they can keep this debt balloon inflated indefinitely. Look at the historical patterns of currency cycles. They always follow a predictable path from stability to expansion to excess to devaluation and finally to a reset. We are clearly in the late stages of that cycle. The debt to GDP levels are unsustainable. The interest costs on federal debt are eating up the budget. And the reliance on foreign creditors to keep buying our debt is fading fast. This is not an opinion, this is the reality of the math. And the math does not care about your political affiliation or your hope for a soft landing. The math dictates that when you have more debt than you can realistically repay, the only way out is through the debasement of the currency, and the smart players know this. That is why they are not asking questions. They are simply buying the physical metal and moving it off the exchange, away from the digital ledger, and into secure, private custody. You need to mirror that level of caution. You need to prioritize the security of your principal above the excitement of potential gains, because in a reset, the biggest winner is not the one with the most paper, but the one who still has their purchasing power intact on the other side. It is about long-term survival. It is about legacy. And it is about having a bedrock that cannot be broken by the volatility of the stock market or the whim of a central banker. When you look at the total picture, you see that we are living through a unique moment in history, a moment where the old guard is being replaced by a new gold-backed reality. And you have to decide if you want to be a spectator or a participant in your own financial salvation. So take the steps, do the research, speak to the experts, and get your portfolio into a position of strength. Because when the shift finally hits, you will be so glad that you prepared. You will look back at this moment as the turning point where you took control, where you secured your future, and where you became the person who didn't just hope for the best, but actively plan for it. Keep your eyes on the data, keep your head in the game, and keep your convictions strong, because the road ahead is going to be unpredictable, but with the right assets, you will be prepared for anything. We are talking about an era of massive change, an era where the rules of money are being rewritten by the people who control the supply, and those who don't understand the game are going to be left holding the bill. I have spent years studying this. I have seen the cycles repeat themselves over and over, and the one constant in every successful financial recovery is the presence of hard, tangible assets that cannot be inflated away. You might think you have time, you might think the system will hold for a few more years, but history doesn't give you a warning before it collapses. It happens in a flash, it happens during the quietest moments, and that is why you have to be ready right now. Look at the way central banks are changing their behavior. They are not just diversifying for better returns, they are diversifying for survival. They are hedging against their own governments, they are hedging against their own currencies, and if they are doing it, then you should be paying attention. The reality is that the financial system is built on trust, and trust is something that can vanish in a heartbeat when people realize that the numbers on their screens don't correspond to reality. We are seeing the end of a long, glorious, and debt-fueled era of global expansion, and we are moving into a much tighter, more restricted, and more volatile chapter of economic history. But this doesn't have to be a tragedy for you. It can be the moment you secure your future. It can be the moment you take your assets and move them into a position where no one can touch them. Think of it as a personal exit strategy. Think of it as your way of saying that you don't trust the madness of the current system, and you are choosing to stand on the side of history that has actually worked for millennia. I am going to keep sharing this content, I am going to keep digging for the truth, and I am going to keep helping people like you understand the stakes. Because when you have this knowledge, When you have this understanding, you are never going to be caught off guard again. You are going to be the one who stands tall, the one who is prepared, and the one who thrives, even when everything else seems to be falling apart. It is about resilience. It is about foresight, and it is about having the courage to act differently than the crowd. And I know that you have that courage. I know that you are looking for the path forward, and I am here to help you walk it. Let us keep pushing, let us keep growing, and let us keep building that foundation of wealth that will last for generations. We are just getting started. We have so much more to talk about. And I promise you that the next few years are going to be the most critical in your financial life. So don't blink, don't look away, and don't let anyone convince you that you shouldn't be protecting your future, because you are the only one who cares about your financial legacy as much as you do. So take action, get informed, and let us make this shift together. Peace, and keep your head held high, because we are building something real. We are building something that matters, and we are building it for the long term. I will be right here with you, analyzing every single move the central banks make, breaking down every piece of data, and keeping you ahead of the curve. We are the architects of the new era, and we are going to navigate this transition with absolute confidence and strategic precision. See you in the next one. Peace. Is the pacing and the storytelling rhythm of this script hitting the right notes for your upcoming video project?